and this will be sent out tomorrow at some point where you'll be able to go back and review the session. Also attached to that is a questionnaire, so we just ask that you take the time, fill out the questionnaire. It should take you no more than 2 minutes. I think it's 4 questions total, but you'll be able to go back and reference this this presentation. We do have the chat feature that will be open. So if you do have questions, feel free to post them in the chat, but we will have a designated Q&A at the end of the presentation. So I would hold off on questions until the end. And then you'll also, I'll also allow people, if they want to come off mute and ask their questions, then you feel free to do that. So feel free to use the chat or come off mute and ask any questions that you might have. And then from here, what I'll do, I'm going to pass it off to Megan. Megan, are you ready to roll?
Yep, let me share my screen.
Perfect. And we can see it.
Okay, I'm just moving some windows around here. Okay. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight for the Princeton Review Understanding the NCLEX NextGen. I am Megan Haverkamp. I am an outreach director here at Princeton Review. I have been working in test prep for about 15 years. I've been with the Princeton Review for 1 year, and here at Princeton Review, my biggest concentration is on our test prep for the NCLEX. I know we mentioned that Dr. Rollins was going to be our presenter tonight. She sends her apologies, but she had a work emergency, so so I am stepping in for her. All right, let's get started. And also, as RJ mentioned, please feel free to put as many questions in the chat that you have. We'll have question and answer at the end. If I cannot answer them, Dr. Rollins and another one of her colleagues will help me answer those and get them back to you as well. Okay, before we jump into the NCLEX, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Princeton Review. We are experts in test preparation for over 40 years. We have been helping students achieve academic and professional goals through test prep and tutoring services. Many of you may have heard of us if you used Princeton Review for your ACT, SAT, AP test prep. But well, now we do have NCLEX test prep. I have the QR codes up here. I'm going to just go over briefly what we have. For more information, you can scan and get more detailed information and see the deals that we're running right now. So we have an NCLEX QBank, NCLEX Live Online, as well as a brand new self-paced package, which allows you to study on your own with the test bank and 1,000 slides of study notes that we purchased from the NCSBN, and we are the only ones that have those. Okay, moving on. Here is my contact information. Be sure to write down my email. Anytime you have questions about the NCLEX or about studying or even about, making a study plan, I'm happy to meet with you. Okay, understanding the NCLEX NextGen. We'll go over activity statements and some questions, the new questions samples. We'll talk about an individual preparation plan and the NextGen exam as well. Okay. Make sure my animation. The NCLEX is designed to test your ability to think like a nurse. The NCLEX exam is significantly different than any test you took in nursing school. In nursing school, your exams are knowledge-based, but the NCLEX takes that knowledge and tests your application and analysis of your nursing knowledge. So very different type of an exam. All right, so everybody has heard that I think it's a week. We are changing, the exam is changing. But what a lot of people have not told the public or have been out spreading the word, there is a lot that is not changing and is staying the same. And the first thing is the rigor and content of that exam. So everything that you were, the content of the exam, everything that you were tested on prior, you're still being tested on. How long the exam is, it's still 5 hours. It's still a CAT exam, and that is a computer adaptive test. If people don't know, basically you start with a question, how you answer it will shoot you down if you didn't answer it correctly to an easier question, or shoot you up to a more difficult question. And each individual question is a CAT question on the exam right now. In the new exam, a large portion is, there is a segment that is not CAT, but I'll talk about that later. The use of a calculator is still provided. It's on your screen, push button, very easy, it's still there. So if you have a question where you have to provide numbers, you will have your calculator. Test takers will still need to fully understand the material and not try to memorize it. Okay, so I mentioned that the content that you're tested on is not changing. So it's the same information that you're being tested on. And how does the NCSBN, that's who administers, builds the exams, how do they break down the content of the exam? It's in what we call activity statements. All right, activity statements. Basically, the activity statements are the knowledge, skills, and abilities that the NCSBN has identified as what you need to know as a new graduate or a entry RN, right? And to be able to understand and provide safe and competent care. Well, how do they come up with what you need to know at that level? They do a very rigorous survey analysis every few years. This survey goes out to many nurses, nurse managers, nurse educators, and other stakeholders. And they gather all the information. They ask them, what's out there? What are you seeing? What are you needing in the field? What are those skills, knowledge, or abilities that the nurse should possess? And they then compile this into what they call a test plan. You can think of it kind of as the blueprints of the exam, and they break them down into what they call client need categories. Let me go back though. If you would like, and you should, if you're very close to taking the exam, you should go ahead and scan the QR code and read the NCSBN test plan. It gives you a wealth of information about the exam. It will break down the categories we're going to go through. And everybody should do that before you even build your study plan, but definitely before you take the test. Okay, I'll leave it for 1 second if you want to scan it. All right, so how do they break it down, and what is the kind of test plan blueprints? Well, they break them down into 4 categories. They break down those information, the skills, and the knowledge that you need to know. The 4 categories are safe and effective care environment, health promotion and maintenance, psychosocial integrity, and physiological integrity. You will notice, so there are 4 categories. However, safety and effective care environment and physiological integrity are broken down into subcategories. So really, there are 8 major categories of information that you need to know. The other sections are management of care, safety and infection control, basic care and comfort, pharmacological, and this word gets me all the time, parenteral therapies, I tell you, reduction and risk potential, and physiological adaptation. You will notice to the right, there are percentages of, and what those are the possible questions you could receive coming from those categories. You will see that management of care is 15 to 21% of questions on your exam could come from that category. The next one is pharmacological and parental therapies at 13 to 19%. Yes. Where is my other one? I apologize. Oh, safety and infection control and physiological adaptations so those are the 4 biggest ones that you will see, categories that you will see your questions coming from. All right, I am going to go through each individual one, and I'm going to give you a definition and kind of give you some examples of concepts they could test you on to give you a better idea. This is the knowledge you need to know. The client needs categories. The nurse, so management of care. The nurse provides and directs nursing care that enhances the care delivery setting to protect the client and healthcare professional. Some of the examples of questions you could get: advocacy, establishing priorities, IT questions. Okay, next one, safety and infection control. The nurse protects clients and healthcare professional from health and environmental hazards. These are accident, home safety, standard precautions. You have use of equipment, so safety and infection control. Health promotion and maintenance. A nurse provides and directs nursing care in the client that incorporates knowledge and expected growth and development, prevention of early detection of health problems, and strategies to achieve optimal health. Examples: the aging process, health screens, health risk behaviors, lifestyle choices. Those all are types of questions you can get in health promotion and maintenance. Oops, too fast. Psychosocial integrity. The nurse provides and directs nursing care that promotes and supports the emotional, mental, and social well-being of the client, experiencing stressful events, as well as clients with acute or chronic mental illness. Examples: abuse and neglect, end of life, mental health concepts, substance use and abuse and disorders, use and disorders. I need to get some water. Oh. All right. Basic care and comfort. The nurse provides comfort and assistance in the performance of activities of daily living. Examples could be assistive devices, elimination, nutrition, oral hydration, personal hygiene. And those are all examples of concepts that you could see under these categories. I know there's a lot. I'm just trying to we'll get through all 8, and then we'll look at the new exam. The nurse provides care related to the administration of medications and parenteral therapies. Examples: blood and blood products. You have expected actions and outcomes, farm pain management, TPN. This, remember, is one of the biggest categories. Reduction of risk and potential. The nurse reduces the likelihood that clients will develop complications or health problems related to existing conditions, treatments, or procedures. Examples: vital signs. We'll definitely see lots of questions. Laboratory values. We have potential complications from surgical procedures. You'll see that lab values has an asterisk by that, and that is because you will not be asked lab values, but lab values will now be given to you on the exam. You will, if you need lab values, they will be given to you. Okay. Physiological adaptation. A nurse manages and provides care for clients with acute, chronic, or life-threatening physical health conditions. Examples: illness management, fluid and electrolyte imbalances. All right, so to sum that up, as I mentioned earlier, these are the 8 client categories that kind of show you where your questions and where the knowledge that you need to know for this exam comes from. You can get that at the NCSBN's test plan. Okay, we're going to quickly, before we get into the new exam, go over some quick tips about how to study for the exam. And then I promise we'll get into the new exam. I'll be quick. Again, here's the QR code for the NCSBN test plan. Like I mentioned before, read it before you make your test plan, but most definitely, you know, your test plan is how you're going to study and how much you're going to study and when you're going to study. But definitely, if you don't use it to make your test plan, you should be reading through it before you take the exam. Those that make a study plan tend to pass the first time. So we often say, plan, plan, plan. You have to take in consideration how much time do you have to study, where, you know, is it Saturdays and Sundays only? Are you working? And then how much you look at those activity statements and you think about, like, you identify your weaknesses and your strengths and which areas do I need to study the most, and you kind of build and make a plan. But of course, the most important thing is practice, practice, practice. The more questions you practice, because this is not an exam like you are used to, and the new question types that we're going to see, the more you practice this information in it, the better at ease you will be on test day. Okay. NextGen items. Okay. We talked about what isn't changing. Now we're going to talk about what is changing. And this table, I'm going to kind of go through, but then I will go through each individual thing a little more in depth. There may be a lot of questions about this, and we can always jump back and look at the table if we need to. All right, I'm going to start with the length of the exam. It is getting longer. So right now, the minimum for a week, right? The minimum amount of questions an individual has to answer is 75, and the maximum is 145. That is going up to 85 and 150. And for those of you that don't know, this exam judges, so you will take the first 75 questions, and if the computer, your answers and the computer will be able to gauge if you are at a high potential of passing or of failing, the computer will shut off and you'll be done with the exam. You took the minimum amount, you demonstrated that you have a high potential of passing the exam, so you don't have to go any further. But it could also mean that you have a high potential of not completing the test or failing the test. And but either way, you're done with 75 questions now, and on the new exam, that will be 85. Okay, total scored graded items as well goes up. So on today's exam, we have 60 minimum and 130 at the maximum. So it goes up to 70 scored and 135. Now, the pre-test questions, you will also be given pre-test questions. A pre-test question is a question that the examiners are giving you to gather statistics on, to see if it's a good or bad question so that they can use it in the future. You know, did too many people answer it right? Maybe it's too easy. We need to play with it. And so they're testing out questions. They're pre-test questions. They are not scored, and they will not be flagged or identified for you. You will not know which ones those are. So when we say the maximum length is 85 to 150 items, we are counting those 15 in there, but the total scored are 70 or 135. Okay, the next thing that is changing on the exam, besides the length, is how the questions are asked. I like to think of the two, you have new item types or styles of questions, but you also have how they are going to ask you those questions. And I like to say how they like to format it. So on the new exam, everyone will get what is called a case, 3 case studies. A case study contains 6 items each. And so an item is a question. And I will go into case studies more, but that is new and we'll go over it in a little bit. on the next few slides, but you get 3 of those. Also, they're coming out with new styles of questions, and they call the ones that aren't in a case study a standalone. You will still see the multiple choice, the select all that apply, and that sometimes you would get a drag and drop, a small drag and drop. You might have that on right now. You will still see those. So you will see the first gen on the new exam, as well as bow tie and trend as standalone options. Now for the good news, scoring on the exam right now, it's full credit or no credit. You answer the multiple choice right, you get it right. If you get it wrong, it's wrong. When we have a select all that applies, if you need to select 3 and you got 1 wrong, you got the whole problem wrong. Now you will get partial scoring. They break this down into what they call a 0-1, a plus minus, or a rationale partial scoring. And we'll go through what those are in just a second. Okay. The NGN Test Design, the new test design. So as I mentioned, the length of the exam will vary for every candidate's ability, meaning every candidate will have to take the minimum amount of questions. That minimum amount of questions, remember, are 70 scored and 15 unscored, your pre-test questions, okay? That's your 85. Everybody will have to take that. Within that 85, or let's go with the 70, within the 70, you will see 3 scored case studies, okay? 18 questions. A case study is a question where the screen will be divided in half, and I have some pictures coming up. And on one side, you will have tabs with all the pertinent information you need to answer 6 questions. You get them one by one. So you get a question, you answer it, you submit it. The same scenario and information that you need for the next question will stay on the screen, but the next question will come up. Okay. So that is a case study. You will have 3 of those and 52 scored knowledge items. Knowledge items are any of the first gen or original questions. That could be a multiple choice or select all that apply, and maybe a small drag and drop. Okay, so 52 that are unchanged. They're the same today as they're going to be in a week. Now, the 15 unscored pre-test items in that group, they have said, now remember I told you pre-test questions are questions they're trying out for future exams. They want to put it in the test bank for future exams. Well, future exams have NextGen in them. So you may see pre-test items in case studies, and they've broken it down as 1, you could get all 15 are standalone old gen, right? 2, you get 1 case study and 9 standalone items. Or you get 3 case studies, or you get 2 case studies and 3 standalone items. Okay. So really, you could get in the first 85 questions, 5 case studies. The 3 that are scored, you will not be able to identify. You just need to answer them the best you can and as well as you can do it. Or you could just get 3. Everybody's guaranteed 3. Some people will get 5, some people will get 4. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry I went along on that, but we get so many questions on that. Okay, now most people have to go over the 85. How far they go depends on how many more questions you need to answer to pass or fail. Okay, and each candidate is different. But remember the maximum. You will have 135 items and 15 unscored items, minus, you know, the 70 and the 15. So the questions after 85, depending on how far you have to go, the examiners have said you will only get 10% NextGen questions in the form of standalone. And we talked about those. Those are the standalone, the new standalones are the trend and the bow tie. Okay. The case studies, does not mean you're getting 6. This just means you already did those. All right. If you have questions on this, go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll go over it. I know it can be very confusing. All right. Scoring. Now, the NCLEX format, in the current NCLEX format, you either get full credit or no credit, right? Now we're going to have partial credit. They have defined these. They have not 100% come out to say which ones would be which, but you can kind of guess what is what. So I will go through the 3 types of partial scoring. There is the 0-1 scoring. You earn a point for each correct answer selected and 0 points when you select an incorrect option. The points are then added together for a total question score. Plus and minus scoring, you can earn a point when you select a correct answer, but lose a point if you select an incorrect option. The maximum amount of points for that question are the number of correct options. The minimum of the point will always be 0 because they won't take your score down with a negative number. Rationale scoring. This one is you only earn points when you select a response that reflects a proper understanding of the rationale of the question. Both X and Y must be correct to earn a point. Okay. I'm going to go through and start showing you, we're going to go through some examples of the new styles of questions or item types as they call them. And so that you can see kind of what they look like. This is a multiple choice in a case study, but the next slide actually is a better view of a case study, I think, mostly because the coloring is so light on this. But you will see some multiple choice questions, basic multiple choice in a case study. You know, your question and you pick your answer. You will also, but you will definitely see them as standalone. Oh, too fast. My clicker is overextending. Extended multiple response. Okay, so this is a better view of what your screen is going to look like and what a case study looks like. On the left, you will see that you have a whole bunch of information and there are tabs. Okay, those tabs will vary within the case studies. Not you get one set of tabs for each case study, but you know, for different case studies, they can be anything like health history, vital signs is a big one, labs, nurses notes, that's a big one, health history. So, and then you'll have all the information you need with the scenario, and then asked a question on the right side. Now this is called an extended multiple choice because it is a select all that applies, which means you read the question and you select each one of the answers. When you're done with the question, you will submit it and a new question will come up and you will have the same information and scenario, just a different question. Okay, so that's what a case study looks like. All right, extended drag and drop. So on the exam right now, you might see an drag and drop, and it's more kind of you have 4 options and they're smaller and you move them over where they go in order. An extended drag and drop is one where you might have to move only 3 of them to answer the question, or you might have to move more. So the number of boxes is not equal to the order in which you're putting. You may have to put certain answers, but you just drag and drop them, but you might only have 3. Okay. The close or drop down, most people call it a drop down. Again, information on this side. The drop down is segmented in a sentence where you will hit the select and you'll have your options. Click on the drop down, put your answer in. You can see, you know, 1 or 2. There could even be lists with drop downs, or charts and tables with drop downs that you have to use. Enhanced hotspot items allows candidates to select their answer by highlighting predefined words or phrases. It could be a whole phrase. So this is highlighting. You get the question and then have to go along and highlight the answer to speak. So pretty easy to understand. Matrix grid. Okay, matrix grid items allow the candidate to select 1 or more answer options for each row. This item type can be useful in measuring multiple aspects of the clinical scenario with a single item. One thing you need to know about the matrix grid is every row needs to be filled out. So you can't, it can have 1 button clicked, could have all 3 buttons clicked, but you have to go all the way down the row to get them all filled in. All right, we are already to our standalone. So those are our new NGN questions that you will see. You will see them all in case studies. You will not see them outside of a case study. They will be then, of course, in the first 85 questions. Then we go, if you go over 85, remember, you will have standalone questions, and the two new standalones are the bow tie, and the bow tie is pretty cool. All right, the bow tie, again, you'll have a split screen. You'll have all the vital information that you need. You might only have 2 tabs. You might even have 4 tabs. It all depends. You have 6 questions to answer, 2 actions to take, the condition most likely experiencing by the patient, and the parameter or monitor on the right. So the options below are called your tokens. You just drag and drop them in the what looks like a bow tie, 2 actions on the left, parameter and monitor on the right, and 1 in the middle. Those are called your target. It's called a bow tie because of that. The best way to answer this question is to read your question, go to your scenario, get all the information you need, and answer potential condition first in the middle, because then you will know what actions that condition need and what parameters and monitor they need as well. All right. The last standalone question is called a trend. Trend items are linear. They review information over a period and can feature any item or any item response type or question type. So on the left-hand side, you are going to be given supporting information that is linear, you know, spreads over time. On the right-hand side, you could be given any type of item type response. Drop down, fill in, you know, highlight. It could be any one of those. But it's the question will be linear, if that makes sense. Okay, so I went through that awfully fast because I had no questions coming in. And we're doing them at the end. So here again is my contact information, and I'm going to stop sharing and see if I can get into the chat.
And as Megan is doing that, if you do have questions, feel free, you can post them in the chat, or if you want to take yourself off mute, you are now able to do that and you can ask your questions. And we'll give people a second to think of those questions.
I know it's a lot of information. I will tell you, thank you for coming, but that we have coming up on our website, there will be a few national open to everybody free events where we'll be discussing this more. It doesn't hurt to find as much, you know, to hear it multiple times. Okay, when will this version start to be used? It starts April 1st, so in a week.
And also, just as a reminder, you know, obviously a lot of information here to unpack. This was recorded, so if you do want to go back and reference anything during the presentation, you'll have the ability to go back and review that. That recording will be sent out sometime tomorrow, so you can go back and review the material that was covered.
Has anyone heard or seen any of this before? Oh, will there be a regular format questions in the standalone? Okay, so I'm not, regular format questions, the multiple choice, and select all that apply are standalone questions. So I'm not sure if I understand a question, but if you're asking if it could be in the trend question, yes, you could get a extended multiple choice as one of the formats in that. Okay, lots coming in. Is this format for just for NCLEX, or is it also for other clinical classes? Example, critical care currently uses HESI. The format is for the NCLEX RN exam. Yes. I am a faculty nurse educator, and we have started incorporating NextGen question examples in our exams. Perfect. The more you see them, the better.
Does anyone else have any other questions? All right. Well, Megan, thank you for jumping on and sharing this information. You know, obviously with this starting next week, it's you know, pretty important information as far as individuals that are going to be taking this exam. But thank you for taking the time, jumping on the call and sharing this information.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone, have a great rest of the evening.